Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us for our weekly office hours. My name is George Soto, one of the co-founders here at AssetMule, joined by my regular right-hand man, or am I your right-hand man? I don't know, kind of both. But
Partner in
Justin,
crime is what I like to say.
I like that one. Bonnie and Clyde, um,
Yes.
and yeah, Justin Dorfman, co-founder and CEO here at AssetMule. Today, we're joined by the awesome Miriam Melo, who is a product marketing expert. And Miriam, we have done, quite a bit of pieces of content together over, the last couple months or so. And I'm just super excited about your perspective today on, B2B product marketing in 2025 and beyond. I know there's a lot of like sort of questions and, product marketers, are getting hammered all the time, right? Particularly, I think marketers in general, we sort of talked about that in the green room. But today, I think one of the things that I, really wanted to dive into is kind of your background in working at larger organizations, but also smaller organizations. You've done it all. You've worked at some of the largest brands in the world and have helped, startups go to market. So really, really excited about that. And real quick, why don't you just tell folks a little bit about that background?
Sure. I'm so excited to hang out with you guys again. It's always fun, and I feel like every time I'm learning something new. So excited to be here. And yeah, my background is a little bit non-traditional, right? I've been in tech for a long time. I'm not going to say how long because it's just going way back. But I started in my career, the majority of my career was focused around user research. And I spent a little over a decade doing that at Salesforce. There were things around user research that really, really excited me, right? Getting to know your user base and what are their day-to-day pain points and workflows and figuring out how the solution can solve for that, getting feedback to evolve the product roadmap and the features that you're creating. But I also saw that there was a different level of impact that you could have by having that knowledge of your users and the market and the product and bringing that into having that narrative and sort of bringing the product to life in a different way. And so I was able to sort of take a step back and think, I love understanding my customers. And we're going to talk more about that because I'm super passionate about customers being at the center of everything. And I saw synergies between what it takes to be a great UX researcher and the empathy that you need to have for your users and product marketing. Because I feel like as a product marketer, you sometimes have to put on that UX researcher hat, and that empathy for your customers need to be front and center. And so I've been doing it for over 8 years now. And I work for big companies like Cisco. For example, I've worked for smaller startups, some in very early stages. And so I've seen the good, bad, and the ugly. I've experienced the good, bad, and the ugly. But I would love to just talk about, what are we all facing as product marketers? I think we all have a story to tell, but those stories are very similar, right? And we're up against similar challenges and opportunities. And so I'm excited to have that conversation today and sort of learn from each other and, even the audience, if there's any, opinions and thoughts that we can weave into our conversation, I would love to do that. I don't want to be polished at all. So let's just have a conversation amongst friends.
Awesome. And real quick, just for the folks out there, if you have any questions, comments, feedback, go ahead and add these to the comment section here on LinkedIn, or if you're watching this on YouTube, we'll be monitoring those. So just something to keep in mind.
Well, I know we're going to dive into like what the future of product marketing looks like with the next couple of years. But before we do that, maybe looking backwards a little bit, and you mentioned you've worked at large companies and smaller companies, and you've sort of been in the product marketing space for some time. How have you seen the role of product marketing evolve over the years?
Yeah.
At one point, I don't think product marketing was even a thing. I remember product marketing was almost like a part of product management, right? But then obviously it became its own thing. And in that time, it's become better defined, but there's still a lot of misconceptions. So I'm curious, yeah, how has that role evolved? Has it become more clear what the charter of product marketing looks like? Yeah, how have you seen it become that practice that is so important to these to tech companies?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because even in the last 2 to 3 years alone, there's been so many shifts within product marketing. And I think companies are sort of veered into different lanes. They could start off as thinking as product marketing as more tactical content and launch support function. And in some cases, they started out by thinking of product marketing as more of a strategic function, right? Interpreting those market signals, those competitor insights, the customer feedback to inform product positioning and your messaging and even your roadmap strategy and growth. I think in this day and age, and we've seen a huge shift, right? I mean, we're in an environment where, unfortunately, companies are looking at different ways to invest in their business, which means oftentimes taking away resources from other places. And marketing tends to be one of the first ones that are impacted, right? It's one of the most expensive cost centers. From a business strategy perspective, that makes sense. But when you're entrenched into a capacity in marketing, especially around product marketing, this is where that evolution is starting in a way. It might seem from looking from the outside looking in that product marketing may be something that will be easily replaced. I would argue that based on where companies are at today, where they need to be to stay ahead. So think about AI, for example, that is pervasive now. It doesn't matter what industry you're in, you have to adopt it into your strategy. Product marketing can offer a lot more than just, I'm going to create content to support X. Product marketing is really like that superpower strategic arm that you can pull across the different parts of the business, right? Whether it's your sales strategy, how to go to market properly, how to take down a competitor, how to create customer loyalty and increase adoption. The trick is, right, how do you bubble that up across the organization, but still continue to answer the needs of the sales team that's always going to want more things, right? The product team that's always going to come to you last minute with like, I have 3 features I want to launch and it needs to happen tomorrow, right? Oh, we have a conference coming up and we need all these sessions. So I think as we evolve rapidly, product marketers have to start thinking about what can you, I'm going to use the term outsource, which is probably not correct one, but what can I sort of automate and sort of create an opportunity for me to move faster, but still be impactful, right? This is where AI comes in. And I don't think AI is going to replace us at all, at least not anytime soon, but it can help us actually scale and wear different hats at the same time, right? So when you think about sales asking for a data sheet, right? I need that right now. Like, so, oh my gosh, something that could take like at least like a day or two to pull together by using AI. I mean, I love ChatGPT. I was an early adopter. I've used all the other ones, Gemini, Gronk, et cetera, but I always go back to the OG. But, leveraging something like ChatGPT, right, or whatever your company has as an internally approved tool, it can mean the difference between you spending cycles and days and just pumping something out in a matter of like maybe 20, 30 minutes, right? Maybe it's not perfect. And that's the other thing. Like sometimes perfection gets in the way of us having more impact. But there's things that you can sort of put within AI so that you can focus on that more strategic piece, understanding your customers, your competition in the market, so you can actually have more impact. And so I would say AI, take advantage of it. That's the great way for you to evolve as a product marketer, do more with less and scale.
I was going to ask you, given your background, like you've done research, you've done a lot of different things at different organizations. I was going to ask you, like, how do you think that prepared you for product marketing, and for folks maybe who are doing other sort of functions, like how could they, who are interested in getting into product marketing, how can they sort of prepare for that? And by the way, shout out to Nick. Thank you so much. I love my my setup here. Yeah, appreciate it. Awesome.
I think, I mean, if you're thinking about going from one function to product marketing and sort of what that could look like, for me, it was just my passion for being customer centric and being able to impact them, right? And I think from a product marketing perspective, in order for you to be able to do that, impact your customers, you also have to impact your sales and your marketing engine. And you have to be, this means you have to be a product expert. You have to be able to, with your eyes closed, be able to talk about the product, right? You need to be able to show it. You need to be able to talk about your customers and with the empathy in your tone, right? Understanding their pain points, their use cases, and then bringing all of that to life in something that is going to have an emotional connection with the audience, right? Whether it's an ebook, whether it's a landing page, whether it's a webinar, whether it's a sales play that you're working on with your sales counterparts, that customer centricity and that passion for customers and putting that at the center of everything is crucial. And that's what drove me to product marketing, because I was already super, super jazzed and close to my customer base as a UX researcher. But as a product marketing, I can take that to the next level and use that to influence the company strategy and the customer life cycle, which is so exciting and so powerful. And I don't think sometimes as product marketers, we give ourselves the breathing room to think that way because we're so caught up in the mix. So that's what got me excited about product marketing. That's what keeps me in product marketing, even with all the highs and lows, is that if I have the customer at the center of it all, I'm empowered to have impact. So starting with that, they're my secret weapon, obviously, right? And so I think if there's anything else that we can take out of this session is be close to your customers, walk in their shoes. There's different ways you can do that and bring it into your everyday workflow. That's going to help you be so much more successful and have more impact and be a trusted voice in the room.
I want to double click on the AI stuff. I know everybody's thinking about it. Everybody's, like you said, there's a lot of fear out there, AI replacing jobs and so on. Personally, especially when it comes to product marketing, I actually think this is a huge opportunity for this practice, right? Even before now, product marketers have always been under-resourced, asked to do more than they could probably handle as an individual, a lot of them being solo product marketers, and AI provides this opportunity, I think, to make every product marketer, if used the right way, a 10x product marketer, right?
Yeah.
But you kind of touched on some of this stuff, but I'd love to hear, what are the parts of the product marketing role that should be outsourced? And I'm okay with saying that because I think, it makes sense. What are the pieces that should be outsourced to AI, let's say, right? And that maybe the human element can be replaced by, this new technology. And what are the pieces that are so core to product marketing from a human perspective that AI just should never touch, and that the product marketer still, as a human being, brings to the table?
Yeah. I mean, I'm going to admit to you, for a while there, I thought that if I leveraged AI to do certain parts of my job, that I was cheating, right? Sort of like, the kid in class who needs to write a big paper on something. And, the teacher's always like, is it really your words? So I kind of took that on. And so for a long time, I shied away from using AI. I was using it for my own personal edification, right? To come up to speed on certain topics and things like that. But to create things within my professional everyday life, to create content or, pull together some competitive research, I thought that meant I was cheating, even with messaging and positioning. Over time, as we've all experienced, product marketing is being asked to do more with less, right? And so we touched upon that a little bit ago. We're seeing massive rates of headcount reductions, right? And so oftentimes product marketing now, you used to have a content team, you used to have a competitive intel team, folks that you could draw from to help you build your assets, to help you build your strategy. Now they're gone. And so are some of the tools that the company was paying for. What the heck do you do, right? And so this is where I think AI can be so powerful to help you scale. And even in some functions where you might not have the full expert skill set, that's the other thing that AI can do for you, right? So competitive intelligence, not everybody knows how to do that, right? And it's not, it's not there's not one secret sauce, I would argue, to do it right, because your company and your space are going to be different. But you can put a prompt into ChatGPT, for example, and say, my competitors are XYZ. I'm interested in knowing where they measure up against these 5 areas of my product, and bring in quotes, whether it's from, a feedback loop, whether it's from a webinar, whether it's from an article that can actually add meat to the bones on that. And it will spit that out for you, right? But as a human, now you have the opportunity. You have the core there, right? You have the foundation. Now you can take that, put on your lens from like, okay, I'm a product expert. I know my company's strategy. I know the accounts we're trying to go after. And then you can use that and sort of quickly build sort of like, here's how we're going to market to take down these competitors. And by the way, out of the 4, this one should be the top one that we focus on. And then you start building your strategy collaboratively with your stakeholders and the people that need to be involved. And so, and then other ways is, like blog posts, right? As product marketers, we're asked to pump out content all the time. And I love writing blogs, but sometimes my brain is dead, right? Like my creativity is not there, but I kind of have an idea of what I want to talk about. I can just go in there and put some prompts. So like, first, I want to understand trends in the market and stats, right? Because you need that. And we all know you need that for a great piece, right? And then like, okay, let me weave in sort of outcomes and what that could be. So that more thought leadership approach. And then like, okay, now I'm going to layer in my top product pieces, help me bring it home, right? And so you have an outline right there. And then as a human, you need to go and expand upon it. But it's no longer about like, oh my gosh, now I have to spend 3 hours, block 3 hours out of my day after meetings to be able to start building these pieces. AI can help you do that. It can help you unlock creativity, ideas, bring in insights, statistics, quotes, anything you can think of. So you can continue answering the urgent needs of the business, your sales team, and your product team. But then you can also focus on customers and understanding that and using them, which is another thing that I would love to talk about, to influence your messaging, your positioning, how you go to market, and all of the things that really as a product marketer, you should be putting more of your calories in.
Yeah, I got one that's top of mind right now because I'm actually going to be working on it this afternoon. We're thinking about doing a product hunt launch, right? And I'm, as a product marketer, I've launched a bunch of products, but I've never launched on product hunts. And you go to Google and you search, like best practices in product hunt launches, and there's all kinds of articles there. And, before AI, I probably would have spent time reading a bunch of those articles, spending a full day doing that. And then starting to think about, okay, how should I apply these principles that I've seen, these trends, to the launch that I'm about to do?
Yeah.
Instead, I can go straight to ChatGPT and say, hey, I'm doing this product hunt launch. First of all, ChatGPT already has all the context on my ideal customer profile, our product, how we position it, how we message it. And I can ask it to write an outline, using best practices out there on product hunt launches. Help me build an outline for how I should go about launching this product on product hunts, right? And, in, like you said, 30 minutes to an hour, now I have this outline that sort of pulls all those best practices that are scattered across the web. And I can actually get started with the human part, which is really thinking about how this applies to our own business and our thinking about our customer and how, we can, engage them in that way. So it's a huge tool for getting started. I found on a lot of these projects as a product marketer, that feeling where you have this big, heavy project on your plate and like, oh man, gonna have to start, get focused and start digging in. I just found starting in ChatGPT or, an AI tool just really gets that process going and gets the creativity flowing.
Yeah. I mean, I can't say how invaluable it's been for me, especially as I try to adapt. I've had experience working for bigger and smaller companies and sort of being able to adapt fast and getting even up to speed, right? Just getting the lay of the land, getting up to speed with like the top things that, the company is known for and products known for. There's so many use cases on how AI can impact a product marketer. Maybe that's another session later on, right? Top use cases of how AI can help you become like a product marketing, like superstar, or just, being able to automate some of those things. But yeah, like don't be afraid of it. Don't be afraid of it. Don't be intimidated by it. Lean into it. It's not cheating. Doesn't mean you're any less smart. It's just going to help you scale. And in today's day and age, you need to know AI, you need to understand it, and you need to utilize it so you can have more of an impact.
And by the way, I had that cheating feeling too. And I've sort of like now gotten over it, but I think it's a natural feeling that probably everybody that cares about the quality of their work, right? Feels. But you're right. As long as you're adding that human element over on top of it, it's almost like if you don't do it, you're not doing your job, or it's a disservice to your company and to be able to move at that speed, right? If you're not taking advantage of it.
Miriam, I want to ask you, you've built teams at different size companies, and do you ever sort of look for different things depending on the size of the organization when you're building a product marketing team? And just because we're needing to really embrace this, and we're talking a lot about it, how do you sort of gauge these days, if you're a product marketing leader out there, how do you gauge the someone's sort of understanding of AI in the hiring process?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a few things, and I would also put this as something that founders need to think about, especially with early stage companies. Because I think oftentimes, product marketing, they go into this hiring motion of, we need somebody who can write great content, right? I feel like for product marketing to really have impact out the gate, you want somebody who's more of a generalist, right? I'm not saying they're going to be a guru on all the things, but you want somebody that's going to be versatile and adaptable. They're going to be able to wear multiple hats. For example, from market research to messaging, right? From conducting sales plays to being able to help in creating a customer journey, right? So that you can have like higher adoption and loyalty as an outcome. And I think for scale-ups and enterprises of any size, I would argue, I think it's important to prioritize strategic thinking and customer insight expertise, again, customers, and that cross-functional collaboration skills. You can teach somebody a lot of different things, right? And especially with AI, we can come up to speed on so many topics and become experts and learn how to get things done. But that strategic thinking, that customer empathy, and that cross-functional collaborative skill, and the ability to adapt and be versatile, I don't think you can teach that, right? And so for me, I look more for those signals. Yes, a great resume with a lot of impactful stats is amazing, right? A tenure is amazing. The logos are on the resume is amazing. But there's certain things that I need from a counterpart, and I think founders should start thinking about is somebody who's going to have that strategic thinking, somebody who's going to be able to come in and look at the gaps and identify based on customer insight. Here's how we're going to meet those gaps. Here's how it's going to push our strategy forward, whether it's sales, whether it's customer success, product roadmap, whatever the case may be, marketing. You need that. That's really where product marketing's power shines, right? Anyone, I would argue, especially with AI now, can write a great piece of content, right? That's no brainer. But can anyone create messaging and positioning that is strategic and it is in a tone with the outcomes that customers are actually, that represents your customer base, because that's what's going to land in a market. Mm-hmm. Not really, right? So yeah. So I don't know if that answered your questions in detail, but I look more for those soft skills that can't be taught, Because I have no problems. Like if that person is versatile, they can think strategically, they're gonna come up to speed really, really fast, right? So that's what's important to me. And I think that as founders, they need to start thinking about that versus somebody that is just going to be note taking and pumping out content. That's that's not going to drive the needle to move.
Yeah, and circling back to what we were talking about earlier, those are the pieces that can't be replaced by AI. Like you said, the ability to write content, AI is getting better and better at that, but the ability to think strategically, think from the customer's point of view, connect the
Yes.
dots between the different stakeholders in the organization and build relationships cross-functionally. Those are the irreplaceable human elements of the product marketing role, right?
Yep.
So totally agree. You've
That's
talked a, what's that?
That's your impact. I mean, I think,
That is, yeah.
like the other thing that I think product marketers are dealing with right now in this day and age is how do I measure my impact as a
Yeah.
product marketer? And we've all been in the scenario where it's like, is it really pipeline influence? Right? Is that it? Is it really like, how many downloads you get on an ebook? Is it how many impressions? Is it the amount of content you pump out? So every quarter you pump out 20 different pieces, right? I mean, those are all important, but I think it's sort of understanding like what you're building, how is it going to shape the business, right? What is that outcome? And I think sometimes we get caught up in on like everybody asking for urgent things that we don't take a beat and say, how is sales actually going to leverage this?
Yeah.
Right? Are they using it? Do I know if they're using it? Right? They're asking for the sun, moon, and stars. So even if you don't have a tracking mechanism in your company, I think it's easy to be able to do that. That means you come along for the ride and you're part of the sales team. You're an extension of them. Same thing with product. How do you help product adoption and utilization, right? Yes, launches are a big part. You need to be really, thinking through how to pull the different levers across internally and external audiences. But being able to really like get entrenched in a product, being part of those stand-ups and those conversations, where they're thinking through features like, are we ready? Are we not? And being an advocate for them, bringing that back and bringing it back to the leadership team or your stakeholders and advocating for this is how we need to move forward and representing those teams. I think doing that will actually have more impact versus being known as like, Miriam's amazing and she created 20 pieces of content this last quarter. It was awesome. That's not going to keep me around. It just isn't. So I think everybody has different opinions about that, but at the end of the day, how close you are to the organizations that you're supporting, product marketing should be the advocate for product sales, customer success, and marketing. And that means you have to spend the time. You have to entrench yourself deeply. And I mean, it's key.
Maybe to sort of wrap up the conversation today, there's so many different themes here. If there's, maybe there's a young product marketer or aspiring product marketer listening here today, trying to break in or trying to sort of establish themselves within their organization, what's one lesson that you've learned in your career as a product marketer that you wish you knew when you were starting out, right? When you were in your first product marketing role?
Yeah. Spend the time getting to know your organization, your counterparts, the people that you're going to be supporting. Spend a ton of time with customers. Honestly, that is, you can take the insights from your internal stakeholders and the people you're going to collaborate with, take those and then marry it with customers. Like that should be the first thing you do in your first 30 days. You should have more conversations with customers than anyone else. When I haven't allowed myself the time to do that because I'm being challenged to start pumping things out, I miss the mark. And so now I'm very much and that could be as easily as you creating a 30 and 60-day goal metric with your manager and advocating for why that's important, right? That's going to give you so much insight. Product demos, of course, you want to really absorb those. You want to really look at sessions that have been done before, what's being talked about in the market. All of that is important. Then center that around your unique customer insights and really getting to know them. Um, that for me is a crucial part for how you're going to set the tone for how successful you are as a product marketer and evolve.
Yeah, it's like the biggest trap, I think, for a product marketer when they first come in an organization is there's so much demand for all these things just to like start delivering, and then you get stuck into this tactical order
Yeah,
taker. And yes, you have to deliver impact
yeah,
early and show, sort of like make your mark, but at the same time, you need to take the time to understand the customer, understand your stakeholders, understand the company, the culture, the tone, and sort of set those building blocks, right, to really
yeah.
build this function as a strategic function, and not just get pulled into that tactical, silo there.
Yeah, yeah. No, absolutely. I mean, I would love to continue the conversation. I think there's just so much more we can dive into. Um, but let's do this together, right? As product marketers, we are a huge community. We can learn so much from each other. So that's why I'm thankful for you guys and the product marketing community. No matter if you're employed or unemployed, or you're trying to, up level your skill set and your impact, tapping into the product marketing community is so amazing. And so that's where that human component comes in. AI can't replace that. So I would also encourage everyone to do so.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for taking the time. For the folks out there who have tuned in, I see there are quite a few folks engaging. Thank you so much for breaking out some time to hang with us. If you're not an AssetMule user, definitely check it out. It's completely free to get started. Go to AssetMule.ai. If you're looking to work with an expert, you should definitely check out Miriam and check her out on LinkedIn here so you can see her profile linked off from this company page. If you're on YouTube, go ahead and search for Medium using the search bar on LinkedIn. And without further ado, have a wonderful day, everyone.
Have a great day, everybody. Thanks.